If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Weirding Way Media.
Night, Mr. Walters.
You see that guy over there? No, he's an actor. The guy on the phone, he's a prize fighter. Me, I'm a cab driver. I'm the only cab driver in this place.
Hello again, and welcome to Night, Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. I'm your co-host, as always, HP. And with me, as always, is my co-host, the Macho Gourmet, Father Malone. Father Malone, how are you doing?
HP, let's skip the preliminaries and just get married.
I love these little oblique, references you make going into the episode. It's great. It's like a little Easter egg for the listeners to figure out. That's great.
In this case, that egg is rotten.
Well, I think there's going to be some surprises in this discussion, I think, but we'll see. First, I want to remind you that we are doing these shows in broadcast order and not in the order of filming. We're going over episode 6, The Great Line, which is written by Earl Pomerantz, and it's directed by James Burrows.
Jimmy Burrow.
It seems like I think that's probably to be expected. I think this sort of, at the time, a fledgling show like this, I think the heavy hitters are kind of ushering it in through the first season. I think every episode we've reviewed so far has been directed by Burrows.
As it should be.
As it should be. He's a legend. I kind of want to do something a little different here. I kind of want to dig into, the first thing I want to dig into with this particular episode is I want to dig into what might be the most bizarre B-plot of any taxi episode that we've covered so far, and possibly in the whole series, come to think of it. I guess let me ask you your impressions. I'm talking about the Chug-a-Lug guy who pops up periodically. Father Malone, what are your initial impressions of Chug-a-Lug guy?
The entire scenario reminded me of a cold open you would see on Cheers, usually featuring Harry Anderson as Harry the Hat, where this random character who is not part of the show, but is sort of a satellite to it, shows up, does their funny bit, and disappears. So that was what I mainly took from it. What I also took from it is, why is this freak show being featured? We've already been saddled with Randall Carver. Won't they leave us alone?
In this case, it's strange because it's not just a cold open. This character, I can only call him the Chug-a-Lug guy. I don't even know what his actual character name is. But what I can tell you is, I don't know if you've done your research on this, but I did. The gentleman in question, Chug-a-Lug guy, is a man named Bill the Fox Foster.
I recognized him from that Man show that he was on.
Yeah, I did not watch the Man show at all. So but in doing some research on this fella, I did see that that's kind of his big claim to fame. So he's no longer with us. I believe he passed away in 2000
Alcohol overdose.
from cirrhosis, I think was
Alcohol poisoning.
in his obituary in 2000. The LA Times called him, quote, a man of quick wrists and a commodious throat. He was a singer of bawdy songs and the proprietor of the Fox Inn in Santa Monica.
Oh, how crazy! I had no idea. I used to live in Santa Monica, but that's insane.
Were you familiar with the Fox Inn at all?
I'm familiar with it, yeah, but had no idea there was a connection there. I certainly didn't know it was going to connect up to me reviewing a show from 50 some odd years ago, where he's the little freak on display at the beginning. I wonder how it came together. Did they see him on Dinah Shore or something like that and went, oh, that's funny? That's
unanswered as far as I'm concerned, because none of the information I looked up really referenced Taxi at all. It's a complete footnote in this man's life. I think he was carrying on this sort of tradition of being a bawdy troubadour and being just an all-around party guy. He would bring people in and sing songs with them and have a good time and drink his beers and what have you. This doesn't explain how he ended up on Taxi in the least. It's still a mystery to me, and I kind of like that it's a mystery because it's so weird. So apparently, Mario's had a chug-a-lug champion, somebody who could quaff down a beer in record time, and this man, the chug-a-lug guy, was the champion. And you see him at the very beginning. The gang is in Mario's, and Tony wants to challenge the champion. And this guy, I had never seen him on the Man Show, so I didn't know about his abilities. But this guy quaffs down a pint of beer in maybe a second and a half. It's lightning quick.
I don't think it's even that long, honestly. It's blink and miss it.
He easily beats Tony, and it's amazing. It's such a prodigious sight to see. Just to wrap up the B plot, and then later Louis comes into the bar and he decides he's going to take on the champion. So he makes a bet. And right before they're about to go 1, 2, 3, drink it down, he makes this offhand comment about, hey, how long did it take you to clean the taps after they got the dead rat out of there? Something to that effect. And Chug-a-Lug guy kind of...
He blanches and stares at his beer thinking, oh my God, was there a rat in this? And that provides Louis De Palma enough momentary lapses to get that beer down.
And he declares himself the new champion, which in true Louis fashion, it's great.
Structurally, this Chug-a-Lug man opens the show, and he comes back a bit later, just sits with them and does the trick again just to reinforce it. So we get it once, twice, setting it up for Louis to knock him down and be the hero at the end of this episode, which I thought was clever. I don't know. This thing went nowhere, but at least it was well thought out.
It is rather curious because, like you said, at some point this might be a record for how long the cabbies were sitting and drinking in Mario's, because typically you see them in a scene and then they're gone, but they cut back after commercial, I think, and they're still there for reasons we'll get into momentarily. But yes, he goes over to their table and he asks to sit and have a drink with them, and they say, yeah, sure. They sit down, and he sits. He quaffs down another beer, just drinks it in record time, and then he gets up and says, okay, see you later. And he walks out, and that's the joke. Which, again, clever or just plain question mark? I don't know.
Question mark at the end of the Mysterians, all in one man.
He was quite the enigma. So let's get into this. I knew Father Malone as I was watching this episode, and I was reminded of it. This isn't one of the episodes that I would revisit very often, because it's a John. Let's just say this: it's a John-centered episode. Anyone who's been listening to this podcast knows that there's really no love lost particularly with Father Malone and John Burns, aka Randall Carver, as he's called it, the human sinkhole of emotions. Is that?
Sinkhole of charisma. My God.
The human sinkhole of charisma.
Not that there's any emotion there either. I mean, you're calling it right. So
I had some apprehension. Well, not apprehension isn't the right word. I was very interested to see what Father Malone's reaction is going to be to this episode. So let's get into it. So the gang files into Mario's. They're going to have some beers, probably after a long day's work. And John is thunderstruck, I think is the word. He's just mesmerized by a woman across the bar.
Smitten.
He's smitten.
How do we know that he is smitten with this woman? Because he's even dopier than usual. Anyway, proceed.
I can only describe it. She's wearing a Dorothy Hamill hairdo, which I think it's not atypical for I guess it was 78. So I'm just going to refer to her. I don't even know what her name. I think her name was Suzanne, but I'm just going to refer to her as Dorothy Hamill.
Could you get it right though and call her properly Dorothy Hamill Cut? Dorothy
Hamill Cut. You got it.
Yeah.
So he sees this woman in the Dorothy Hamill hairdo, Dorothy Hamill Cut, drinking with some of her friends. Gumpy John can't come up with the words. He's bashful. He's literally like bashful from Snow White.
Golly, I couldn't go talk to a girl.
So, of course, it's Bobby, who, by the way, whose shirt is unbuttoned about 3/4 of the way down his chest, declares that he's going to do John a favor, giving him a surefire pickup line. Do you remember what that line is, Father Malone?
Oh, yeah, I said it at the outset, which is let's skip the preliminaries. Let's get married.
No, you forgot. So Bobby's take on the line is, why waste time? Let's get married. But then Tony, of all people, tweaks the line. He says, I have an even better line. And his line is, as you said, let's cut the preliminaries, want to get married. And somehow Bobby thinks that they've improved on the wheel. So he says, it's going to work.
On the wheeler.
On the wheel. Maybe that's good.
This is Earl Pomerance's swipe at the upper management for rewriting one of his jokes, by the way.
You think so?
No, but, it's possible.
So John walks over. He gives the line.
Oh, wait. Before you get there, we got to discuss something. Which is when Wheeler tells him the line, he says, it has devastating results. But he does it in this weird Jeff Conaway, devastating results.
It's like Danny Zuko from Grease. That's what he's doing.
It haunts me, his devastating results. Jeff Conaway echoing in my brain.
As you would expect, Bobby has full confidence that his corny pickup line will work. So John gets up, talks to the Dorothy Hamill Cut, and gives his line. To everybody's shock and amazement, but the viewers watching this episode, she agrees. She says, sure. But they agree to wait an hour. They'll give it an hour before they get married to sit at the bar and get to know each other a little bit.
By the way, as a viewer, I was shocked that he got anywhere with her. But go ahead. I mean, I know it happened dramatically, but you look at him and the dopiness of him. Just anyway.
That's true. Look, I'm having a lot of fun at this woman's expense, but it.
Dorothy Hamill Cut, you mean?
I mean, yes, but she is a pretty woman. She's not ugly, which I think goes to your surprise that he would get anywhere with this woman. After he scores, with the line, the cabbies all applaud, and Wheeler, I can only describe it. He kind of does this Fonzie thing, like to kind of give himself a victory lap because it's his line.
Yeah.
And if you look carefully, you'll see. There's no dialogue because they've already gone to like the bumper music to go into commercial. Right. But you can actually see Tony for a moment looks hurt. I think it's because it was actually his version of the line, so he's not getting any credit. But then Wheeler kind of gives him a handshake, and then he smiles, and clearly, these two geniuses have reached equilibrium. So, all right.
Wait, so I have a question for the end of that scene.
Yeah.
The fuck are they still doing there? It's like clearly like closing time, and they're all bummed out, and Elaine just keeps going, alone. They're all drunk beyond the pale. Like, just go home, everybody. You don't need to shepherd this boy.
You jumped ahead a little bit. So we come back from commercial, and you're right. Like the bar is emptied out. I think only the cabbies, John and Dorothy Hamill Cut, are still in the bar. And I think even like, I don't know if he's supposed to be Mario or whoever, but the guy's like putting the chairs up on the table and cleaning everything up. And to your point, for some reason, I guess it's just late and they've been drinking. Like Elaine gets caught up in this like thing in her mind where she's talking about how she's gonna like die alone, alone,
Well,
alone,
yeah, but
and
the thing is, her line in the opening scene while watching this drinking contest of morons is like, they told me that you're not going to have a life after divorce, but clearly here I am, like living the high life, looking at this nonsense. So later on, when she had become more drunk and she's examining her life, yeah, she keeps chanting alone. But Elaine, go home.
what about your children? They're home alone. Like you have young kids.
She's got a sitter for them. I don't care about that. But like, leave this bar. It's very depressing. You all seem very unhappy.
It's very depressing because at that point, I think Bobby is sort of passed out on the table. He's sprawled out on the table. I think Rieger is just frankly kind of annoyed at Nardo and her insecurities.
Somebody call these people a cab. If only they knew someone.
That is a good point. So, and this is when that Chuggalug guy comes over and asks to sit, and we already talked about that. Cut to a couple days later, and John comes back into the garage. He's not been around for a couple days, and the cabbies are all wondering what's going on. And Tony makes a crack about being married. I don't recall exactly what I think he's implying that they've been like having sex for 2 days or something. And this sends John into a rage. He yanks Tony off of the cab that he's been sitting on until Tony helpfully reminds him that he could pulverize him. At which point, again, the hayseed John kind of comes to his senses. Oh, I'm sorry. And
Golly gee, I know I was just like I was on angel dust there for a moment, but...
And he smooths the wrinkled shirt that he pulled him off the thing.
Nice sir there.
Right.
The muscles, oh yes, rippling.
So, so John confides in the cabbies that they actually went through with getting married, and he the way he describes it, it was like a game of chicken that neither of them would call the other person's bluff. He's frantic about this. He doesn't really know what to do.
And they all freak out, by the way. Every single one of them is like, oh my God, you did what? You what? You're married? Not one of them is just like, who cares? Just go get a divorce. Like, what are you stupid? You're young and you're an idiot here in New York City. Who cares?
Just get it annulled. It's ridiculous. John and Alex end up back at Mario's. They're clearly alcoholics, all of them. While they're there, Louis comes in, and this is when he challenges Chuggalug guy and becomes the champion beer chugger. Anyway, he comes over to the table and he tells John that the little woman came to the garage and left him a letter. And in true Louis fashion, I think he makes him pay $1 before he gives him the letter. He gets the letter, and the letter proceeds to tell John that it's from Dorothy Hamill Cutt.
It's a Dear John letter to John. Get it? Next to Judd Hirsch, who's the Dear John sitcom guy. Oh my God, worlds collided. It was like a black hole opened up.
It was incredible. I had that same, because it hadn't occurred to me before as I watched this. I go, wait a minute, it's a Dear John letter, and Judd Hirsch, future star of Dear John, there he is.
Speaking of black holes, in the previous scene, Randall Carver upgraded himself to a black hole of charisma as he was describing the hilarious tale of how they ended up married. Well, first we went to Maryland, and then we went to Thing. This guy, it's just, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I don't get it. Anyway, proceed.
That was a little much when he was sort of feverishly recounting the tale to Alex. She says in the letter, where we should just get an annulment. This was a mistake, and you deserve better, and da 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 da. Alex is excited. He says, "Look, there you go. There's your out."
I'm sorry. Before you continue,
yeah,
Alex reads the letter, right?
Yep.
And at the end of it, he says, "It was a nice letter, and I read it nicely." It's the funniest line in the entire show. Oh, it made me laugh out loud. You can hear the audience reaction as well. It's effortless. It shouldn't be funny. It's a nothing line, but it's Judd Hirsch in this scene, like actually bringing something to the scene that Randall Carver is incapable of bringing.
It did feel a little bit like he was kind of showboating. Like it wasn't about Alex reading the letter. It was about Judd Hirsch saying, yeah, that's how you act, kid. That's how you do it.
I didn't get that at all.
I see. I got that. It felt a little too offhand.
That's just because Randall Carver is terrible. Anyone next to him is going to look like the showboat. Tony Danza looks like he's showboating next to the guy. It doesn't mean he is.
In true sitcom fashion, even though this is exactly what John wanted, now he's freaking out because he believes that she's such a great girl. He has to get her back. It's dumb. So now he's inveigled Alex to go to her apartment, or it's her parents' apartment where she's living. He has to go to the parents' apartment and try to get her back, quote unquote. So they go to the apartment and they're greeted by, now here's my, just spoiler alert, here's my favorite part of the episode. They are greeted by Mr. Carruthers, played by none other than who, Father Malone?
I wrote in my notes, Dolph Sweet, exclamation point. I was so excited he was here. The episode begins when that door opens for me in this episode.
150% agree with you. This, up to this point, if we were going to grade this episode, this would have been, and we'll talk about yellow lights in a minute, but up to this point, if you had asked me my grade, I would have said this is a 1 yellow light. This is terrible. It
Certainly
features our least favorite cabbie in such a formulaic sitcom premise that I have no choice. But as you said, once that door opens and you see Dolph Sweet come out there, all is forgiven as far as I was concerned. The man is such a treasure. Despite a career for Dolph Sweet that stretches back to the early 60s, clearly he's always going to be best known as the dad from Gimme a Break. I think we can all agree with that. But here, he is just so delightful. His for me, his deadpan line readings recalled Philip Baker Hall as Bookman in Seinfeld, the library cop. He's like just deadpan and serious, but he's just perfection in an episode that is really anything but.
Here's my relation to Dolph Sweet. As a child, I watched Give Me a Break, right? And then I watched Bad News Bears in Breaking Training, which is the sequel to the Bad News Bears, where they're trying to get to Houston, to the Astrodome. Mm-hmm. And their new coach in the opening scene is Dolph Sweet, playing Dolph Sweet, which is hard ass, sort of not going to take shit from these younger people who don't know good enough. And when I saw him walk onto the field, my tiny brain realized, oh, that's what acting is. He's the guy from that show is now in this movie playing different roles. The actual concept of acting came into focus for me thanks to Mr. Dolph Sweet. Dolph Sweet always manages to play a hard-ass character who isn't sort of soft and lovable, but he's likable. He avoids the cliche of the teddy bear underneath the gruff exterior. He's exactly the gruff exterior, but you still like him anyway. Yeah,
he is really, really, really good. He takes this episode from a very low lull of energy, and clearly to the both of us, he just makes it. Once they arrive, except for a little wrap up between John and Dorothy Hamill Cutt, it's really all about Alex trying to explain to Mr. Carruthers why they're there, what's going on, and setting the stage for because the parents have no idea that their daughter just got married. It's watching two pros, Judd Hirsch and Dolph Sweet, kind of trade lines back and forth, which really made the episode for me. And it sounds like you had the same reaction.
Yeah, because Dolph Sweet comes to play. He's playing a hard ass. He consistently plays hard asses, but make no mistake, Dolph Sweet is a very funny comedic actor. Like, you could throw him into any scenario and he brings up the level of the other actors and matches the best of who's there. It's like you said, watching him and Judd Hirsch together is a joy. That everyone else in the scene fades into the background, basically. And that's a great thing, because the other guy playing in the scene he's like the anti-Sam Malone. It's Randall Carver.
Even when they're at the table at the very beginning, all of the cabbies are gathered together, including John, and they're talking about the Great Line and all this stuff. It's so clear the charisma that comes off of each and every one of them, except for poor John. They don't have a lot of lines. I don't think Tony says a whole lot except for his streamlining of the Great Line. But as a viewer, you're watching this, you can't help but think to yourself, wow, this is an amazing assemblage, except for, as you put it, that black hole of charisma right there in the middle. That unfortunately this episode is. But you couldn't. The thing is, you couldn't base this episode around anybody else because it requires that kind of bashful hayseed to be the one who, without guile, delivers this line and goes on this sort of adventure.
Right. Who could have done that? I don't know. Latka, maybe?
Yeah, but he wasn't as well formed as a character yet.
This should have been a Latka episode. This is a Woody episode, but it's 7 years too early or 8 years too early.
They weren't ready. Like Latka is still at the point now where he is being kind of deployed with very much with a lot of restraint.
I would say Banta, but Tony could probably just pick up any girl he wanted,
Yeah, he's no slouch when it comes to women. So you couldn't build this around Banta. It would have to be someone like John. It's still too early for Latka.
I would have preferred to see the failure of the Latka episode than the abysmal failure of the John Byrne episode. Is it Byrne? Am I saying that right?
I think it's Burns with an S.
Let me praise Dolph Sweet again. In the tail of that scene, Alex Rieger is laying out that they were going to get a divorce. Now they're not going to get a divorce. Now they are going to get a divorce. Like raising the spirits and dashing them of the parents. And finally, Dolph Sweet says, kind of incredulously, "Is this fun for you?" Oh my God! It's the other time I laughed in the episode. So
he and Judd Hirsch work so well together. To your point, Dolph Sweet came to play, and Hirsch being the consummate pro. Like at one point, they first get there, and Alex says something to him like, "Look, are you the kind of person who likes things straight and to the point, or do you like them, gilded?" And you expect somebody like Dolph Sweet to be like a straight arrow, and his response is gilded. So they're happy in the situation where their daughter has told them nothing since 1971. And that makes them happy, and that allows them to get along in life. That's just so funny to me.
And it's a total version of what you would get in a sitcom. That the family that's totally involved in every aspect of their daughter's life. Like they're like, no, we don't know, we don't want to know.
That's exactly it. It's the fact that you see Dolph Sweet, you see him, and he seems like the stereotypical, hard ass father who's going to protect his daughter at all costs. And in fact, it's an inversion of that, like you said, where he'd prefer to be in the dark. He'd prefer you to gild the lily as much as you can so that he doesn't really have to delve into the sticky situation that he's presented with.
Just sort it out. I'll be in the other room. Right. I can't even be in the room for the solution, but please come up with a solution, then don't tell me your solution. It's again, the third act of this episode deserves its own episode.
Yeah.
Like those should have been like Elaine's parents or something. Like they should have worked them into it like a whole other thing. Like it needn't have been this silly courting. Froggy went a courting, he did ride sinkhole.
If this episode, and I'm not going to spoil it, but if this episode gets any more than one yellow light, it's entirely due to the efforts of Dolph Sweet. I'm not sure what this episode would have been had you not had him rescuing him. Let's talk a little bit about the good and the bad in this episode. Let's start with the good, Father Malone. We've talked a little bit about this already, but why don't you go into what you liked about this episode, what you thought worked well?
I think Judd Hirsch shone as usual. I think the third act is pretty great. All the performance is pretty good in there, except for one, because the mom is good and Dorothy Hamilcutt is good. Obviously, Judd Hirsch and Dolph Sweet are just swinging for the fences. That's all good.
I agree. Dolph Sweet, he's a treasure. Writing in the apartment scene is fantastic. It's enough to make you wonder why wasn't the preceding 20 minutes or so up to that same standard, but it's great. It feels, to your point, and you made this point in the last couple of episodes, Father Malone, that one of the things you look for when we're watching Taxi is it's almost like foreshadowing the direction that sitcoms and Cheers and specifically are headed. And I felt during that apartment scene, it started to feel like the best of what you might see in Cheers. The banter back and forth, these interesting characters. But the writing is really, really strong in that, particularly in that final scene in the apartment. Since you've been talking about this, that's kind of one of the things I look for to measure it up against what's to come. And this compares very favorably, at least the last 10 minutes or so. Judd Hirsch is great as always. He has some all-timer line deliveries, as you mentioned. The Chug-a-Lug guy is wonderfully weird.
Probably not something you're expecting to see on your TV screen in a sitcom. So in that regard, it's probably a win.
I was kind of second guessing, was this guy a giant celebrity at the time? Sort of like the way, do you remember Johnny Machida? The guy who could, he would do commercials. He could speak incredibly fast. He could talk really fast.
How about Ray J. Johnson, or what? You can call me. You can call me Jay. You can call me Ray J. That guy, that level of celebrity, I'm thinking.
Yeah, like was he like a prominent late 70s, like somebody who might appear on Carson or talk shows of the day, Dinah Shore,
Yeah, it's disturbing. It makes you think things you shouldn't be thinking while you're watching a sitcom. Like how drunk could this guy get so quickly? Like you're just downing an entire stein of beer one after another. My God, within moments, he should be catatonic.
But it really is like this guy just kind of fell out of the heavens, graced the show with his presence for all of 6 minutes or whatever his screen time is, and then he just disappears back into the ether, and we're left with nothing but questions.
It's a good thing, but it's also one of the bad things in the episode. Because what I complained about in previous episodes was that Randall Carver was stealing screen time from these very talented people. Now, we've got another character showing up and stealing the B plot. Like, this was always going to be a sinkhole episode, and at least they could give us something fun for the rest of the gang to do. And I guess, that another good thing is Louis, obviously. Louis's whole thing with Chug-a-Lug Man it is good. It is fun.
He does have a funny moment where in the midst of John's panic attack in the garage about being married, Louis storms out of the cage. He's angry because John hasn't worked in 2 days, and he yells at him and he says, next time you're out of work for 2 days, you're fired. To which Rieger replies, hey, you know what? Take it easy, Louis. The guy just got married. And in classic Louis fashion, he said, oh, we got married. And with a full Cheshire Cat smile from ear to ear, he basically delivers the same lines, but in this happy, oh, next time you're out for 2 days, you're fired. But smiling the whole time.
It's a rictus. It's like gritting his teeth together in an approximation of a human emotion of joy to let this guy know that he's going to be fired if he does it again.
It's so good that the show is still at the point where Louis is sort of like this spice that they sort of sprinkle over some episodes. There's a little more Louis in some episodes than others, but up until this point, he's not been the main focus. They're deploying him very judiciously right now, and only to the show's betterment. You don't see him much, but when you do see him, he makes an impact, and you can be sure that Danny DeVito is going to make a meal out of whatever you give him. So he is I agree, he's a very big plus in this episode. Talking about the bad now. It's a problem when the person that you're building the episode around, the main character, gives you nothing.
I was trying to figure out his appeal in this episode because he's featured so heavily. So I'm watching him with an eye towards what got this guy the role? Why was he the right actor to portray this character? And I think the thing is, he does fit the role that they wanted, which seems like a dead-eyed yokel. The problem is, this show does not need a dead-eyed yokel. The scene that you're describing where Louis comes and saves the day comedically is also the scene I mentioned where everyone in the garage is excoriating John for getting married. And that was the moment that I realized, oh, you know what this show is missing? Reverend Jim Ignatowski, who would have had a more laissez-faire, who cares, or something completely irreverent take on it. And it's missing here in this episode. Not that anything could have saved this episode. I'm just telling you my thoughts.
So this episode, I agree. This episode made me think about John and kind of try to get to the bottom. We might have talked about this a little bit in earlier episodes of this podcast, but clearly the intent, I believe, was because they had all of these sort of street savvy New Yorkers as characters. You have Bobby, you have Alex, you have Tony. Elaine is no slouch. She's streetwise. She can hold her own.
It's about a bunch of New Yorkers. Anyway.
Yeah, they needed somebody to counterbalance all of that sort of New York energy, for lack of a better term. Somebody who maybe, and I know we talked about this because I think we even used the term like proxy, audience proxy. Yeah. But this show, to your point, again, doesn't need that.
As forward-thinking as this show is, it's still a product of the previous decade of sitcom writing. And the way you get an audience to, as a through line, or ease them into the world is to have this kind of a proxy character. By the time they figured out Cheers, they didn't need it at all. The character that leads us into Cheers is the most effete, snobby, like unapproachable character ever. So, you don't need a character that we can relate to and we can see through the eyes of. It's irrelevant. And plus, if you're going to do that, those eyes should not be dead and cold.
This episode never really had much of a chance. I mean, it just didn't, because it already had two strikes against it by featuring prominently John Burns, our least favorite cabbie, and I think by extension, the viewer's least favorite cabbie. It's just, I'm sorry, it had to be that way, but here we are. We should probably mention, by the way, that at the end of the episode, John and Dorothy Hamilcutt decided to stay married. I don't know if we mentioned that, but that's the resolution. So for the bad, anyway, besides the fact that it features the least charismatic of the cabbies, there's not a lot of, aside from some hijinks early in the episode and a stellar turn by Judd Hirsch, there's really no room for the rest of the cabbies, including Elaine, which is a shame. And ultimately, it's just a rather minor episode. Let's talk yellow lights.
What does a yellow light mean?
Okay, to remind you, we are scoring on 1 yellow light being the worst, 5 yellow lights being the quintessential Taxi episode, and no half lights. Father Malone, how many yellow lights do you give this episode?
I give it 2 lights. It would have been 1 if not for the presence of Mr. Dolph Sweet, who is an illuminating figure and therefore deserves his own light.
Once again, we're in total agreement. I also gave it 2 yellow lights. There were some real laughs in the third act, despite John being the focus. I left the episode feeling, I had some laughs. I felt pretty good. It wasn't a total loss. 2 yellow lights from Father Malone and 2 yellow lights from myself, HP. So there you go. That'll do it for this episode of Net Mr. Walters. Father Malone, where can our intrepid listeners catch your other fun activities?
WeirdingWayMedia.com for all the podcasts I do, like Dark Destinations, Astounding Tales of the Public Domain, and Midnight Viewing, the Night Gallery podcast, and Wolf and Raisin, the Banachek podcast I do with HP here. That's all at weirdingwaymedia.com, and I got a bunch of video stuff you can find over at fathermalone.com.
Absolutely, check it out. And as for myself, you can also find me in many of the same corners of the internet. I'm also proud to be one of the galaxy of stars on Weirding Way Media. You can hear me, as Father Malone said, co-hosting the Wolf and Raisin Banachek podcast with my esteemed co-host here. You can also hear me on Noise Junkies. And you can also hear me here and there on the Culture Cast and some stuff here and there on Dark Destinations. So check it out. So for myself and for Father Malone, thank you so much again for hanging out in the garage with us. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Night, Mr. Walters.